The entire first-class cabin fell silent as a flight attendant pointed toward the exit gate. Passengers stared. Some whispered. Others simply watched in uncomfortable silence. A single father stood frozen beside his young daughter, clutching 2 valid first-class boarding passes he had spent years saving to afford. His little girl looked confused as airline staff insisted they leave their seats immediately. Humiliation spread across the father's face while dozens of strangers watched. What nobody expected was that 10 minutes later, the captain of the aircraft would walk out of the cockpit, stop the boarding process, and reveal a truth that would leave the entire airport speechless. Before we begin this emotional story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Story House if you believe kindness, second chances, and standing up for what is right can change someone's life forever. The single father's name was Everett Hale. At 38 years old, he had learned that life rarely follows the plans we make. 4 years earlier, he lost his wife, Naomi, after a sudden medical complication that shattered their family without warning. One day they were planning their future together. The next, Everett found himself standing alone in a hospital hallway, holding the hand of their 7-year-old daughter while trying to explain something no child should ever have to understand. Since then, every day had been a struggle. Everett worked as a high school science teacher in a small town. His salary covered necessities but left little room for anything extra. Every month required careful budgeting. Every unexpected expense created stress. Still, he never complained. Because everything he did was for his daughter. Her name was Wren. She was 11 years old, bright, curious, and filled with the same kindness that once defined her mother. Wren loved books, astronomy, and drawing pictures of places she dreamed of visiting someday. For years, she had talked about seeing the ocean from above the clouds. She had never flown before. Not once. Everett remembered every conversation. Every dream. Every wish. So when Wren earned a National Science Scholarship Competition invitation in another state, he made a decision. He would give her something special. For 3 years, Everett quietly saved spare money. He skipped vacations. Worked summer tutoring jobs. Took extra responsibilities at school. Every dollar had a purpose. Eventually he purchased 2 first-class airline tickets. Not because he cared about luxury. Because he wanted his daughter to experience something unforgettable. A memory she could carry forever. The morning of the trip arrived under bright sunshine and clear blue skies. Wren could barely contain her excitement. Everything fascinated her. The airport. The airplanes. The announcements. The giant windows overlooking the runway. Watching her smile made every sacrifice worth it. When they finally boarded the aircraft, Everett felt proud. Not of the seats. Not of the cabin. But of what those tickets represented. Years of love. Years of sacrifice. Years of determination. Wren settled into her seat near the window. Her eyes sparkled with wonder. For a brief moment, life felt perfect. Then everything changed. Several minutes before departure, a dispute erupted near the boarding area. An influential business executive and his associates arrived late. The flight was completely full. No first-class seats remained available. Soon airline employees began discussing alternatives. At first Everett paid little attention. Then a flight attendant approached. Moments later another employee arrived. Expressions became tense. Conversations became uncomfortable. Finally, Everett was informed that he and Wren needed to surrender their seats. The explanation felt confusing. Complicated. Unfair. Despite possessing valid tickets, they were being removed to accommodate another passenger. Passengers nearby watched quietly. Some appeared sympathetic. Others avoided eye contact. Wren looked up at her father, unable to understand why they suddenly needed to leave. Everett felt his chest tighten. Not because of the inconvenience. Because of the disappointment in his daughter's eyes. He had worked so hard for this moment. Now it was slipping away. Still, he remained calm. He refused to create a scene. He gathered their belongings and prepared to leave. Dignity mattered. Especially when his daughter was watching. As they slowly walked toward the cabin exit, Ren tried to be brave. She smiled despite obvious sadness. That smile nearly broke Everett's heart. Then something unexpected happened. The aircraft door remained open. Boarding paused. A message reached the cockpit. Moments later, the captain emerged. His name was Captain Rowan Mercer. At 56 years old, he had spent more than 3 decades flying commercial aircraft around the world. Thousands of flights. Millions of miles. Countless passengers. Yet something about this situation immediately bothered him. He requested details. Then he reviewed the ticket records personally. The more information he received, the more concerned he became. The airline employees had technically followed internal procedures. But Captain Mercer saw something larger than policy. He saw people. Specifically, he saw a father trying to create a special memory for his daughter. And he saw that memory being taken away. As he watched Everett and Ren preparing to leave, a sudden realization struck him. The scene reminded him of someone. Someone he had not thought about in years. Many years earlier, before becoming a captain, Rowan Mercer was a struggling aviation student. His family had little money. His dream of flying seemed impossible. During those difficult years, one person changed everything. A teacher. A patient, encouraging science teacher who believed in him when nobody else did. That teacher's name was Arthur Hale. Everett's father. Captain Mercer recognized the surname immediately. Memories flooded back. Arthur Hale had spent countless afternoons helping students after school. He never asked for recognition. Never expected rewards. When Rowan nearly abandoned his aviation dream because of financial hardship, Arthur encouraged him to continue. That support changed his life. Without Arthur Hale, Captain Mercer might never have become a pilot. And now, standing before him was Arthur's son. The realization felt overwhelming. Captain Mercer immediately intervened. Boarding remained suspended. Passengers exchanged confused glances. The business executive became increasingly impatient. Yet the captain remained firm. He explained that removing passengers who held valid tickets under those circumstances violated both fairness and common sense. The decision was simple. Everett and Ren would keep their seats. The executive could choose alternative arrangements. Silence filled the cabin. Then applause began. One passenger clapped. Then another. Soon dozens joined. Everett stood speechless. Ren's face lit up with joy. But Captain Mercer wasn't finished. After learning more about the trip and the science competition, he did something nobody expected. He invited Ren to visit the cockpit before departure. For a child fascinated by science and aviation, it felt magical. As she sat inside the flight deck, surrounded by instruments and technology, her eyes widened with amazement. Captain Mercer patiently answered questions. Explained how airplanes worked. Shared stories from his career. For the first time, Ren began imagining possibilities she had never considered. Maybe one day she could become an engineer. Or a pilot. Or an astronaut. Dreams suddenly felt closer. Meanwhile, Everett learned the truth about his father and Captain Mercer. The story moved him deeply. His father had passed away years earlier. Hearing that his kindness continued influencing lives decades later felt extraordinary. Arthur Hale had never been wealthy. Never famous. Yet his impact endured. Sometimes the most important legacies aren't measured by money. They're measured by people. The flight eventually departed under bright afternoon skies. Clouds stretched endlessly beneath the aircraft. Wren spent most of the journey staring out the window, smiling. Everett watched quietly. Contentment replaced disappointment. What began as a humiliating experience had transformed into something unforgettable. The science competition took place the following day. Hundreds of students participated. Projects filled enormous exhibition halls. Judges evaluated presentations carefully. Competition was intense. Wren felt nervous. Overwhelmed. Unsure whether she belonged among so many talented students. Then she remembered Captain Mercer's encouragement. She remembered her father's sacrifices. Most importantly, she remembered her own hard work. Confidence slowly returned. When results were announced, Wren earned first place. The achievement shocked her. Tears filled Everett's eyes as he watched his daughter walk across the stage. The moment felt larger than an award. It represented resilience, growth, possibility. News of the airline incident eventually spread online. Passengers shared accounts. Videos circulated. People praised Captain Mercer's actions. Thousands of comments appeared. Many focused on the importance of treating people with dignity. Others celebrated the power of kindness. Yet Captain Mercer dismissed attention. He insisted he had simply done what was right. Several weeks later, the airline invited Everett, Wren, and Captain Mercer to a special recognition event. Executives publicly acknowledged mistakes. Policies were reviewed. Training procedures improved. Positive changes followed. But the most meaningful moment occurred privately. Captain Mercer presented Everett with an old photograph. The image showed a younger Rowan Mercer standing beside Arthur Hale decades earlier. Both were smiling. Both looked hopeful. Everett stared at the photograph for a long time. The image felt like a message from the past. A reminder that kindness never truly disappears. It travels through generations. Influences lives. Returns when least expected. Months later, Wren placed the photograph on her bedroom desk. Beside it sat her science competition trophy. Both represented the same lesson. Character matters. Compassion matters. The way we treat people matters. Because we never know whose future we might be helping shape. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Story House. Your support helps bring inspiring stories of kindness, hope, and second chances to people around the world who need them most. Red Heart special request, comment below. Kindness always finds its way back. As another bright day came to an end, Everett reflected on everything that happened. The airline almost took away a special memory. Instead, life gave them something much greater. A lesson. A connection. A reminder that good people still exist. The first-class seats eventually became unimportant. The science trophy would someday gather dust. Even the flight itself would become a distant memory. But the kindness shown by one pilot would remain forever. Because sometimes the most powerful journeys aren't measured in miles. They're measured in hearts touched along the way. And sometimes, when the world seems unfair, all it takes is one person willing to stand up, walk forward, and do the right thing to change everything.